Sports Update, powered by Mercury Insurance.
This is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Sacramento Kings led the Denver Nuggets by 13 at the half last night, but they could not hold on for the win. It's the top seed in the West, left Golden One Center with a 117-113 win. Nuggets guard Jamal Murray led all scorers with 36 points. Buddy Hield had a team-high 29 for the Kings. Sacramento's off tonight. They welcome in the Golden State Warriors tomorrow. The NFL postseason kicks off this weekend. It starts in Texas with the Colts at Houston to face the Texans. Later on in the evening on Saturday, it'll be Seahawks at Cowboys. Sunday morning's games start with the Chargers visiting the Ravens, and that'll be followed by the Eagles at the Bears at 7 o'clock. And it's time to plan your football playoff party treats. Start at your local Sprouts Farmers Market and Sprouts.com. Those are your top stories, and now it's back to the drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead.
I'm not letting you go to work today.
Wait, what?
Everybody, listen up.
Welcome to the drive.
Morning.
You're gonna talk.
Get on the phone at 339-1140.
Pretty awesome, huh?
Jump in on our text line at 441140.
Everyone is talking about it. You must know that.
The drive starts now.
Cool show today. Cool show, bro. As Greg Papa is going to join us. Sounds so weird. The new play-by-play voice of the 49ers. I'm a huge fan of that. The difficult thing I'm going to have, and I'm probably just going to get it out of the way in the beginning, is I don't want to sound like my excitement for Greg Papa as a Niner fan being the play-by-play guy. I don't want it to sound like my excitement is shade being thrown at Ted Robinson. So I want to get that out of the way. But I'm very excited about that. And then Sean Salisbury. We had the holiday off. Sean Salisbury is going to join us at 7:35. So we got a nice hour of guesting for you on the Fire Wings hotline. Jiffy Lube text line at 441140. Phone calls 1-800-920-1140. And you're going to want to probably pick up that phone after what we're going to say here. Let's talk about Willie Cauley-Stein. Willie Cauley-Stein is bearing the brunt of the Kings' recent struggles. There is no player on the team that is getting dragged more than Willie Cauley-Stein. And that mantle was previously held by Justin Jackson, but Justin's put together, not all good games, but the fans have kind of gotten off Justin. He's had some moments. Did not play particularly well last night. Willie, in 30 minutes, had 13 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, and a turnover. He did not have a block or a steal. He shot 50% from the field. 3 of 4 from the line. He's actually been markedly improved ever since that end-of-the-game stretch. I forget who it was against, where he airballed it and was like, of God knows what, and then ended up making, I think, 3 of 4 down the stretch. He's actually been much better from the free throw line. I have from the beginning of the year, even when Willie, remember, it wasn't that long ago, that Willie Cauley-Stein was being celebrated by many Kings fans. We got to re-sign this guy. Look at what he's doing. I, from the get-go, as you know, if you listen to the show, have said I do not think he will be here next year. I don't know if he will be traded at the deadline or before. I don't know if they will just not match an offer he gets. But I don't think Willie will be here, and that has not changed. And I think it's very appropriate to be critical of his play, as of late especially. I hear what fans are saying, and I don't think they're wrong. Opposing centers, whether it's Steven Adams, Jusuf Nurkic, Nikola Jokic, they have field days against Willie Cauley-Stein. Last night, a big reason the Kings lost was they were out-rebounded 54-33, leading to a domination in second-chance points for the Denver Nuggets. That is not all Willie Cauley-Stein's fault. But when your center has as many rebounds as Nemanja Bjelica in 2 more minutes. But when Bogdan Bogdanovic, Justin Jackson, and Harry Giles all play less minutes than Willie Cauley-Stein, and they all have 1 less rebound, 5 rebounds each, that's an issue. But I'm starting to see something that's a little worrisome, and I don't want to necessarily be a part of it as part of the fan base. I really see people turning on him in a very mean way. I don't have any issues. In fact, I'll do it many times myself with calling out a player's play. But I go out of my way when it comes to Willie to say I don't think it's not personal. He seems like a very nice guy. Seems like a very thoughtful dude. He paints. He, has other hobbies. And I know painting, I know in this world of sports fanaticism that painting isn't exactly the hobby people look at. Oh, that's awesome. But that's what he's into. So what? He has tattoos on his face. So what? The bottom line with Willie is I think the frustration comes from the fact that it's not that he's not good, it's that he could be so much better. And the things that he has said in the past have echoed in his play. Sometimes his reluctance to go inside, his reluctance to block shots due to the fear of being injured, his comments about getting paid, getting that bag. His words, not mine. Every player wants to get paid. Every player thinks about it in a contract year. Willie just says it. Willie, I think, at worst, is guilty of being honest. Very, very honest. And incapable of cliches. So here's the bottom line on Willie Cauley-Stein, though. Let's just look at it digitally with numbers. He's averaging a career-high 13.7 points. That's almost a full point ahead of his career high last year. It's 3.7 points exactly ahead of his career average. He is 0.2 of a block below his career average. He is tied for a career high in steals. He is averaging a career high in assists. He is averaging a career high in rebounds. This is surprising. A full 1.6 over last year's career high. And a full 2.5 over his career average. He is shooting 53% from the field, which would be the second highest percentage he's had other than his rookie year. Now, I can give you all the numbers, and I understand what you're going to say back to me. Is like, oh, okay, that's great. He gets absolutely tooled in the middle. Here's my point. I think there's something we as a fan base have to become aware of, and that is if you've got a guy in a jersey who, unless he is openly ridiculing the city or the ball club, and in that case, it's no holes barred. But if you've got a guy who's just not getting the job done on the floor, but otherwise is being a model citizen, and you start doing the whole, this guy is, I see him being added on Twitter, being called trash, soft. I saw somebody Photoshop his face on a thing of Charmin. No, listen, I'm not soft to this stuff, and neither is Willie. I'm sure he's seen it all. Who cares? But the problem is that other players in the locker room see that too. And other players on other teams who might be prospective free agents see that as well. And up or down, one thing that this city's always been known for is its insanely awesome fan base that is extremely supportive. We don't tolerate lack of hustle. We love our blue-collar guys like Scott Pollard. But when you start turning in a nasty fashion on a guy, criticism is fine. But when you start going after him personally, I think some fans think if they do that it'll light a fire under him. I think it's just going to help him check out. And from a purely Kings fan standpoint, I want to see Willie Cauley-Stein on a different team. But here's the thing. Here's just, again, like I said yesterday about benching people, fans don't want to hear this, but trust me when I say it's just the facts in the NBA. Dave Yeager is in a very difficult spot, even, and I don't know what he thinks, but even if he wanted to bench Willie, which I don't think he does, he praised Willie last night. You cannot bench Willie. It would be very difficult to bench Willie in a contract year. He's going to completely check out. Now, you say, well, who cares if he checks out? Get Bagley and Giles in there. Okay, but you have to work with assets. There's no draft pick this year. You want to get as much as you can for Willie if you're going to trade him. So you have to look at the whole chessboard here. You have to play Willie, and you have to hope that when this schedule opens up, that he comes back to the top and starts putting up very good numbers. Now, I don't know if Vlade is going to trade him, but I don't believe that they will match an offer for him. So to me, I think the proper move for the Kings to make this year on many levels is you've got to trade Willie Cauley-Stein before the deadline. And because of that, that means you need to continue to play him and support him. Because the better he plays for you, the more engaged that he is, the more you're going to get in return for him. And really, when it comes down to, you can let him walk in July for nothing, or you can get anything for him. And I do think there's a market out there. You're not getting first-round picks. You're not getting Otto Porters. You're not getting, but you're going to get something. So I think from the fan base's point of view, I'm not saying people should be fake, but I'm saying I hope people out there that are being nasty to him stop. And I hope that he gets traded, and I hope that he gets traded before that February trade deadline. The other thing that does, Kyle, is that allows you to go with Harry and or Marvin Bagley on that front line for the rest of the year. One of them starts, if not both. And what that does is that now gives Coach Yeager and the franchise a little bit of an out. Again, fans don't want to hear this, but now you can say, hey, listen, we became in the immediate, more than likely, a slightly worse team without the 4-year veteran. We probably weren't going to make the playoffs anyways. Now we can point to why, because we have 2 kids on the front court. But this is what's best for the future of the ball club, not to mention whatever piece or asset you added. That, I believe, is the correct move for Vlade to make.
Yeah, it's the next step in this team's evolution, right? Is getting Bagley and Giles, because that's a future in your front court.
Sure.
If Willie does wind up staying in Sacramento, it's going to be in a bench role. I really think if that's how,
sure,
if their plan is to keep him, because Giles and Bagley are going to be the starters.
Yeah.
And at some point you have to get them that experience. You have to start them. You have to let them start and work through a bad game. So I think that has to be the move. And as far as people personally attacking athletes, I think we forget that like athletes are people and humans.
I don't think Willie is evil. I don't think Willie
is
trying to not rebound.
Yeah, if he was being a bad person,
right?
Like if you want to go after an athlete who's a bad person, all right, fine. I'm not going to stop you.
If you're a bad person, if you go after the fan
base, you go after
Vontaze
Burfict all the time.
Absolutely, and I have no problems with that.
Yeah, but Willie, like, he's not. I don't know. He's not doing anything malicious. Like he's just there's times he's just not very good.
That's just not who he's just not the defense. He's not the rebounding defensive stopper we all want him to be. It's just not who he is.
And if that's kind of how he's been his previous 3 years.
Yeah. And
piling on at this point, I don't know. It just kind of seems it's a bad look. It's a tough look.
And to be clear, what we're both saying, because I people tune in and out.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying don't criticize Willie.
He's worth all the legit criticism he gets is very warranted.
Very warranted. He has been getting abused over this last week plus, and there's a history of him checking out, and there's a history of him disappearing. I'm just saying I would like to see it be less nasty. If not because that's the moral way to go, put that aside. As Kings fans, you want Willie starting and doing well, even if you are the biggest Willie Cauley-Stein hater, because that's how you're going to have the opportunity to trade him for more value.
And can I give you a stat here?
Sure.
Willie Cauley-Stein has had 9 or fewer rebounds in 23 games this year. The Kings are 9-14 in those games. They're 10-5 when he goes 10-plus boards.
You got Golden State this Saturday. That's a great stat. And then you have Vucevic in Orlando on Monday. You have DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix on Tuesday. You have Andre Drummond on Thursday.
There's no reason against a team like Golden State, Willie Cauley-Stein shouldn't have 15-15.
I think Willie will have a rebound game, pun intended, against Golden State. In fact, I would venture to say Golden State might be his best game of the upcoming 4.
Yeah, they don't have the athleticism or size inside to hang with him.
Right. So you can we got a break. You can go after Willie all you want. It's totally you're right. I'm not defending the guy.
No.
It's the opposite. I want him gone.
Right.
For the best for him and best for us. But I think part of that, I think it behooves Kings fans to not assist in him checking out. I think it behooves Kings fans for him to start and excel as much as he can to drive that value
And
up.
if you think the players don't see what you say,
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Of course they do. And they care more.
they shower, they put some clothes on, and then
they're on their
sit
phones.
in their phones.
They see everything.
Yes.
And Willie sees. From what I've heard, Willie sees everything as well. He just doesn't engage.
Yep.
We'll take a break. When we come back, wow, 4 down territory. Going to be a theme to this 4 down territory with 4 games coming up. We're giving you 4 predictions. And then Sean Salisbury at 7:35. It's The Drive, Sports 1140 KHTK. Fall down territory. Brought to you by Fire Wings.
Fire Wings.
21. That's 3 touchdowns and 3 extra points.
21 of them.
Different flavors.
They did a Nashville Fire Chicken post yesterday on Instagram and used my photo.
Did they?
Yeah, they tagged me in it and everything.
What the heck? I had a nice photo too. What's up, Fire Wings?
Mine was like way better. They actually DM'd me and they were like, Dave also had a photo, but yours way better.
Wow, Dave's photo was trash.
That's what they said.
Okay, well then I guess firewings.com wing it or something.
And I said, find the location near you. I said, that's not true. If you say that Dave's picture's trash, he's going to check out. And we don't need to assist in that. I agree that his pictures have not been that good.
Yeah, okay. Did you Fire Wings likes your pictures, but do you ever wear Fire Wings shoes?
I don't. Wow, we get it. You have an awesome shoe collection.
On the back of my shoes, which are actually need to be cleaned.
Yeah.
It
you
says
get Lance
wing
Woods in
it.
here.
First down, Kyle, before we lose the rest of the audience.
Colts, Texans, who you got?
A lot. Speaking of betting, I think I saw something silly like 87% of the money is on the Colts.
What?
Yeah, it's on the road.
What?
Now that simply Houston's favored by 1.5 last I checked.
Yeah.
But it's lopsided. This game worries me because I very much think the Colts are going to win.
I am fading all of that public money.
But you're talking about the two hottest teams at the end of the season when you factor in how they both started and how they both finished over the last 10 games. Houston had 2 losses out of their last 4, but remember, Houston lost their first 4, and then they ended up going, 9-2 to finish the season.
Keep in mind, one of their losses was to the Colts in Houston.
Right. The Colts started out 1-5, and finished the season 9-1. So you have 9-2 and 9-1 finishes, and this game is in Houston, where, as you just said, the Colts won, about 4 weeks ago, 24-21. I'm going to go with the Colts here. I'm going to go with the Colts. But nope, I'm not. I'm switching it. I'm going with the Texans. I think it's very difficult to beat a team twice in a row in their building.
Yep.
I think Deshaun Watson can just shred defenses in a way that Andrew Luck can't with his feet, whereas Andrew Luck has it with the arm.
Yeah.
This could go either way. I'm very much on the fence, Kyle, but I'm going to go Houston.
So my rule in the playoffs is when in doubt, pick the home team.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to do here. If this game was in Indianapolis, I would take the Colts.
Sure. Me too.
I think it's going to be a close game. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I'm really, really looking forward to this one. I'm taking the Texans -1.5.
Second down.
Second down.
Seahawks, Cowboys, who you got?
Well, both of these guys have interesting losses recently. The Cowboys finished with wins over the Buccaneers and a comeback win. Not a comeback, but a very close win over the New York Giants, 36,
without all their starters.
35. Without all their starters, that's very true. On the other hand, you have Seattle that just lost to the San Francisco 49ers. That was a very weird loss, but Seattle finished with wins over the Chiefs and the Cardinals. This is an interesting one because I don't know who I want to win. See, I don't want Seattle to ever win anything.
Right.
But I love the idea of the Cowboys losing at home in the first round of the playoffs.
Especially after all the talk, like, is Jerry Jones the executive of the year?
Right.
Is the Amari Cooper trade the best trade of all time? Ugh.
I'm going to go a very interesting quarterback matchup, by the way, with Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott. In the end, though, I think when you get into the playoffs, you need go-tos. And I think in Amari Cooper and Ezekiel Elliott, you have those go-tos. I don't trust Chris Carson. I just don't. And Tyler Lockett's fine, but I don't think he's Amari Cooper. And this is the type of game also I could see Michael Gallup getting loose in. I'm going to go with the Cowboys again. To what you said about the Colts-Texans, if this was in Seattle, I would go Seahawks. This is in Dallas. I'm going to go Cowboys. Cowboys favored by 2.
I tweeted on December 23rd.
Kyle, I tweeted
that I'm very looking forward to taking the Seahawks +3 in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd be getting the Seahawks +2, and I'm sticking with that.
Okay, so you're going Seahawks.
I think the Seahawks are not only going to win, I think the Seahawks are going to win by multiple touchdowns.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sean Salisbury will be on with us in 10 minutes. We're going to run through all this with him, too.
Good. He's going to agree with me.
Third.
Third down.
Chargers, Ravens. Who you got?
Ravens favored by 2.5 in this one. The Ravens are becoming, back in the days of the UFC when Chuck Liddell was on a run. I picked against Chuck Liddell like 3 straight times. And he won all 3. And I finally said, until he loses again, I don't care who he fights, I'm picking him. I'm done being burned by Chuck Liddell.
That's me with the Patriots right now.
That's me with the Ravens right now, to a point. I'm not there yet, but I haven't bought into the Ravens. But they keep winning with defense and just enough offense. And we've seen this before with the Ravens, by the way. And we've seen the Ravens do Super Bowl runs with really good defense and just enough offense.
They won a Super Bowl like that.
Yes, they did. But, man, the Chargers are 7-1 away this year. They just lost to the Ravens at home. I just think they're a better team on both. Maybe not on defense, but they're not that worse. And on offense, to me, with Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, and Phillip Rivers, they just have better guys. This is the upset I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick the Chargers over the Ravens in Baltimore.
I've got the Ravens in a very close game. Again, mostly because they're the home team. I think this is how this is playing out in my head. The Chargers lose, and everybody goes, same old Chargers. Can't get over the hump. Keenan Allen's kind of banged up. Melvin Gordon's banged up. People going, same old Chargers. They can't get over the hump. Meanwhile, people go, Lamar Jackson. Are the Ravens bucking the trend of passing? They've run more than any other team since the 70s. Is the NFL shifting back? And then the Ravens just get waxed in the second round.
Right.
And everyone goes, oh. But I think the Ravens win this one in one of those games that next year we go, hey, what was that 4th game?
Yeah.
Like, what happened in that?
What happened?
Oh, the Ravens beat the Chargers 13-12. That's right. Yeah, I've got the Ravens.
4th down.
Fourth down.
Eagles, Bears, who you got?
Now, with no dog in the fights here, I think it'd be really cool to have the Ravens and Bears in the Super Bowl. I do.
That's the most fun matchup, I think.
That would throw all the offense on its ear.
We would need to take that game, find a place that it was snowing, and play it there.
Correct. Absolutely. And I would love to see that matchup. I don't think the Ravens are going to make the Super Bowl. I'm picking them to lose this weekend. But my other upset's also going to happen at Soldier Field. There's something about Philadelphia and their experience and Nick Foles. Now, they're probably not going to win. That line is 6.5, Chicago's favored. But I don't trust teams making the playoffs for the first time. Very rarely do I trust teams making the playoffs for the first time. Now, I've been burned on that before because we've seen Super Bowl winners making the playoffs for the first time. And by first time, I mean the first time with that group of people. There's just something about momentum, something about the Eagles and the fact that they're the defending Super Bowl champions. This is a tough one for me. And I could have egg on my face Monday when they lose by 3 touchdowns. But I'm going to pick the Eagles in the biggest upset of the weekend. I'm going to pick 2 road upsets. One of them the Chargers, the other the Philadelphia Eagles.
I like the Eagles plus 6.5, but I like the Bears to win. I think that defense is going to mess with Nick Foles. We saw Foles in the playoffs last year in the first round against the Falcons. They should have lost that game. Foles did not play particularly well. There are ways to throw him off where he looks like a backup quarterback, and I think the Bears are going to be able to do that. I don't trust the Bears offense that much to make a Super Bowl run, but I do trust them to score just enough points to beat the Eagles in kind of a sloppy game.
Both of them have a win in common over the last few weeks. The Bears have won 4 in a row to end the year, beating the Rams, Packers, Niners, and Vikings. The Philadelphia Eagles also beat the Rams, let's not forget that, and the Houston Texans 32-30, and then a 24-0 final week against a very depleted Redskins team. So they're both coming in fairly hot.
Yeah, the Eagles just their secondary just doesn't. It's so banged up. They just.
I will tell you
trust
this: if the Bears win this weekend,
okay,
I may ride them through the rest of the year.
They're my bandwagon team.
I may ride them through the rest of the playoffs and give them my Chuck Liddell thing. I may not pick against them until they actually lose. I need to see. I think this very well, if we're looking back and the Bears win the title this year, this very well could be that you could be talking to them and say that was our most difficult matchup, mentally more than physically. Getting over that first round hump is very difficult sometimes. We'll take a break. Let's talk to Sean Salisbury about all this and so much more. We haven't talked to him in a couple weeks, so we'll bring him on next on the Fire Wings Hotline. Greg Papa at 8:05. It's The Drive. We got a great second half for you. Sports 1140 KHTK.
This is Kyle Madsen with your top stories on Sports 1140. The Sacramento Kings lost to the Denver Nuggets last night, 117-113. The Kings get tonight off before welcoming in the Golden State Warriors to Golden One Center tomorrow. And the NFL postseason kicks off this weekend. The slate of games are as follows. Saturday, it's the Colts at Texans, followed by the Seahawks at Cowboys. Then Sunday, it opens up with the Chargers at the Ravens, followed by the Eagles at the Bears. So a good slate of games coming up on Wild Card Weekend at 7:36. Time to plan your football playoff party treats. Start at your local Sprouts Farmers Market and Sprouts.com. Those are your top stories. And now it's time for Sean Salisbury on The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
It's The Drive on Sports 1140 KHTK.
Sean Salisbury will join us momentarily on the Fire Wings Hotline. 21 different flavors to choose from. Hey, firewings.com. Just wing it. Greg Papa will join us at 8:05. Real quick, Kyle, thought you'd... Kyle's getting Sean on. This was post-game. Shout out to our guy, John Wilson, for sending this to me. Coz, Katie, and Jerry were trying to figure out how old Harry Giles was.
And how old is Harry Giles?
I mean, is he 20? I don't know. I'd have to
Yeah, I
look.
think he's 22, I think.
22?
Yeah, I think so. 22? Yeah.
Oh, you know
he
what?
should be scoring. He should be
Guess
scoring
what?
20 a game
Let's
then.
see here. It
on.
doesn't have it on the thing, does it?
Yeah, but I thought he was closer to 20, but if he's 22.
This is his.
I mean, he's barely played basketball since high school, so yeah.
He's 1 year at Duke, and then this is his second year in the league.
So my point is, let's give it a little time.
Well, yeah, they're
a lot of people want to...
Date of birth 4/22/98.
98. So that would be 20 years old.
21.
He's 20. He hasn't turned 21
He
yet,
hasn't turned 21
right?
yet.
He'll
So
turn-
he's 20 years old.
Yeah, he's 20.
There's a little bit of difficulty with the math.
John's the best, man.
He really is. Shout out to John Wilson. Does a great job for NBC doing their digital, and he pointed that out to me last night. Joining us right now, I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks. You had Christmas, you had the New Year's, and I always rely on Sean. He's the moral compass each and every week, letting us know not just how he thinks, but how the rest of us should think as well. He's the host of the Sean Salisbury Show on Sports Talk 790, 1 to 4 p.m. That's our time out in Houston. Sean, good morning. I hope you had a phenomenal holiday.
I did. Thank you. Good morning and Happy New Year to you. And I have enough trouble convincing myself of something, so how the hell am I going to convince you guys? But I'll sure try. But, yeah, Happy New Year, man.
There's so much going on, so many places to start. I will ask you just a general question. We went over this earlier. There are two of 5 teams, actually, in the NFL that the NFL could require to be on Hard Knocks. I guess there's rules. You can't have a new coach. You can't have made the playoffs in the last 2 years, blah, blah, blah. 2 of those teams are our Niners and our Raiders. I think the Giants, the Cowboys, and one other. Am I wrong in thinking there would be no more entertaining team to watch than former analyst John Gruden, former analyst Mike Mayock, and everything associated with it?
Oh, yeah. It's the Raiders, man. There's no question. While John may, on the surface, not like it or let us know he doesn't like it, you know he loves that.
Yep.
Because he's the scowl, the verbiage, the attention, Raiders, trying to find a home for next year, the move to Vegas eventually here. And, yeah, no, there's no team that's coming off where we'll be talking about the last year of, get rid of Mack, get rid of Cooper, all these draft picks. When is the Raider commitment to excellence coming back? All those things. There's absolutely no question. Matter of fact, I'll be shocked if the Raiders aren't the choice. And when I look at the Raiders and the 49ers, I think, okay, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. I think of, because those guys are very, a little more calm and do things a little bit different than the Raiders do. I think that if you want what Hard Knocks is trying to get, sound bites and emotional reactions, it's got to be the silver and black. I would think it's a pretty easy choice for me.
I was talking a lot throughout the year, and then when we were doing our wrap-up, and I know if you think I'm full of it, you'll tell me, and asking a former quarterback and asking a guy who is a lifelong Raider fan, I think you're uniquely qualified to answer this. I've been defending the hell out of Derek Carr all year, and I'm not trying to say he's an MVP, but I feel like Derek Carr, through everything, kind of rose as the leader of this team, took a bunch of garbage. There were a lot of rumors, a lot of innuendo out there. I don't think he ever responded. He always had his guys back. I know he didn't have a great year, and there's talk of him being cut or traded in the offseason. I've been making the point that I think Derek Carr didn't have his finest statistical year, but might have had his finest leadership year. You see something I'm missing?
Not at all. And first of all, the basis of that, as you mentioned, going through a lot of stuff and adversity, go back to the broken leg the year he was having an MVP season, coaching changes, front office changes, personnel changes. Isn't that how we judge people when we're judging? We're looking for character, how they handle it when things aren't going well. I do. I don't know about the rest of the world. It's easy to handle it when you're 12-4 every year and everybody's telling you you're great. No, that's not adversity. It's everybody's kissing your ass because you're doing well. It's when you run to those times when you're knee-deep in quicksand and sinking and how you're going to get out of it, and people are questioning your character and your integrity and your performance and how much you care. And the team's not winning. They're getting rid of his best receiver and his best passer, so all those things. And then you say, well, what do we mean? What kind of character is he going to reveal? And I think he revealed it. Now, I would ask this for Raider fans, and I'm one of them, or national so-called experts, or anybody local, experts or fans or media. I'm curious to know, what are your options? That's another thing. It's like the All-Star game. Well, this guy got snubbed. Well, who are you taking out? Mike Trout? Shut up. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing here. All right, so let's say you want to cut Derek Carr. Then what? Joe Flacco's going to take you farther? Free agent? If they cut Jameis Winston? No. Blake Bortles? I don't think so. I go down the list. You found one yet? I look at the free agent class, and who's better? The guy was 2 years old. He's an MVP candidate, has struggled and found his way back and had his moments where he said, okay, that's the Derek Carr we need. And he did it with lesser personnel and a team that really underperformed in so many places. So to me, who you draft? Well, the guy you may like, Herbert, he ain't coming out. Tua's not available. Trevor Lawrence is a freshman. Well, what are you going to do? Okay, Haskins, viable, and that seems legit. He's a good player, but you think a rookie's turning your franchise around immediately? I wouldn't have a problem with keeping Carr and signing a rookie. The money's right because rookies now don't make as much as they used to. You can do that. I get it. So you got to look at the other options. To me, Carr deserves another chance to play with a better team, meaning the Raiders, a better team. So my gut says if they cut him, they're crazy. But right now, some of the moves the Raiders are making, they're throwing caution to the wind and going to do it John's way. And there's no question. And we'll see what Mike, who I love, what his evaluation of Carr is, and everybody in the building, the assistant coaches as well, need to be evaluated. For me, you better consider your options if it's not going to be Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr's still a good player.
Sean Salisbury with us. I want to switch to college. A couple college questions for you, but let's start with Bama Clemson. Silly question, but Kyle and I were going back and forth earlier this week. This is the third time they will play in the national championship, but the fourth time they will play in the national championship playoffs. They played in the semis a couple of years ago. Do you consider this, when you think about this, when you're talking about on your radio show, is this Bama Clemson 3 or Bama Clemson 4?
4 for me, because, 4 years, they've been doing it every year we wake up. And then now next year, if I say who's going to be in the Final Four, the first two names you're going to mention, Bama and Clemson. Both their quarterbacks are coming back. And for them not to be in the situation they're in this year, next year, I'd be more shocked than if it was opposite. Lawrence and Tua, if the draft were today and you could, or in 3 months or in 6 months or in a month, and every player in college football was eligible regardless of their class, Trevor Lawrence is the first pick of the draft, and it's not close. 20 teams would trade up to get him, and Tua is second. Okay, that's how it goes. So I call this 4 because when you're playing in the Final Four, whether it's a championship game or in an earlier in the first round of the playoff, it's 4 for me. But what a tribute, what a compliment to not only Nick Saban but Dabo and the way they're running their programs. It's phenomenal, and it's going to be a great football game. The two best by far are in this. There's no question about it, and they've proven it. And they've got the best players, the best coaches, best strength and conditioning, and they make the best decisions. And and Bama once again is going to have to change their coordinator with Mike Loxley leaving, and he'll go out in style. What a class guy! And they just keep doing it, man. It's phenomenal how they just keep, because they know how to recruit and they know how to develop players. Those are the top two things. And Nick and Dabo do it about as good as anybody in college football now, and the best, quite frankly, because they've been there 4 times. So I'm looking forward to it. If they both play their very best game, Bama's probably 10 points better. 10 points to 2 touchdowns better. But it only takes 1 turnover, and the rest of both these quarterbacks can win a football game by playing out of their minds. So I'm looking forward to it. And whether you liked how we got here with the 2 best teams. They're here, and there's no question.
Sean Salisbury with us. I'm going to lead you somewhere here with a couple of quick-fire questions because we were talking about this also earlier this week, and you got in my head. Sean, do you still, honestly, do you still have an agent? Do you still use an agent in your work?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
And I want to make sure I preface this so it's not taken wrong. I mean absolutely no disrespect at all, but I've been watching Monday Night Football all year, and I'm also not trying to shade them, but it occurred to me that, and I swear on my kids, I'm not saying this because you're on the phone with me. I found myself asking myself, why aren't you in the Monday Night Football booth? I'm dead serious. You would very simply be a better choice than what they have in there right now. And I don't need to disrespect Witten or McFarland to say that. And I'm wondering, I know you're very happy with what you're doing. We're all aware of the history, and I don't know if that's a factor there with ESPN, but is that something you would still welcome yourself doing, being a national analyst in either college or the NFL?
I'd crawl 10 miles over broken glass to do it. First off, and thank you for the compliment. I sit in my living room at times, and I know this sounds arrogant, and I don't like to criticize broadcast teams. I know how tough the job is.
Right.
But our job is to analyze and do it, and I'm not going to, and I'm sure as hell not going to make it personal, because the truth of the matter is Jason Witten, I've interviewed him before, I think he's one of the kindest men I've ever met.
Sure.
And a great football player.
Sure.
Joe Tessitore's got a ton of energy and has built himself from a guy who was their boxing guy, who is now doing Monday Night Football, got the best play-by-play job in the business.
Love Joe.
Tribute to him, I do too, and I think Joe probably needs to dial back the excitement on a 2-yard game. That's
right.
The criticism of him. And Booger's one of the great personalities and fun thing, but the whole mix is not there. And it's pretty. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know.
Right.
There's some things. I always say this on a broadcast: teach me something. Don't talk under the expert, which I don't mean. I'd consider myself a football expert, and don't talk over the amateur. You got to find your happy medium. Madden was great at it. The great ones are to be able to be enthusiastic and energetic without being, hyperbolic throughout the whole thing, and you got to be able to give an opinion but also entertain. And they haven't found that mix yet. They just haven't. It feels like, I mean, it's so rigid at times. I'm uncomfortable watching it, and that doesn't mean anything against the three dudes personally. Yeah, I do it. And there was banter, and this is fact, and whether they agree with it, whether anybody says anything or not. When I was there, both of those were brought to my attention when I was at ESPN.
Sure.
I got a call from the college football people that talked to me about doing the primetime broadcast in the three-man booth. And this was years. I mean, I've been out away from there for 12 years now, but had talked about it. And
was that the Fowler Herb Street crew?
It was. They were making the transformation. They had just. It would have been at that time. Remember, it was Mike Gottfried and Ron Franklin.
Right.
They transferred over where Herb Street was going to start doing it with Musburger and that group.
Gotcha.
So it was just before that. But they had talked to me about it. But the NFL didn't want me to be gone because at ESPN, because I was doing all the Sports Center and NFL Lives, and I got that. And then, you've heard whispers about, well, if there's auditions for Monday Night Football, you were going to get all those things. So whether that's, I know the college football thing because they face-to-face talk to me about that. Then you hear the whispers about Monday Night. But that's history. So does it mean that I wouldn't, if somebody called me? Yes, I'd love to audition for it because I know I can do it. And I know I can do it with energy and passion without being afraid to criticize, but without being an idiot that just criticizes because you're trying to be a hot take guy. That's not me. So I root for those guys, and I hope it works. But there's no question in my mind that I can go out there and do it next week. And for all I ever say to anybody, if you have a question in studio work or for broadcast, because I've done games with Mark Malone, who's my partner for a long time in college football, is stick me in a booth and let's go.
Yep.
It's just like a fight, in the box. If that guy's tougher than me, well, let's throw the gloves on. Let's find out. I'm not afraid of failure, man. I've failed before, and I've had success too. I've been kicked to the curb. I've been, swimming, like I said, in quicksand where I thought I was sinking. So ain't no adversity or anything you can throw at me or say about me that I haven't heard, whether it's the personal knocks, whether it's professional. I don't care, but I know I'm good at it because the difference is I prepare and I'm passionate about it. And I get it now. I make mistakes, as we all do, but there's certain mistakes I won't make. So, yeah, I always say if you really want to know if I can do first take, put me on with Stephen A. Smith and then come see me. If you really want to know, and right. I was that guy 12 years ago.
Let me stop you because I want to make. I know you're humble, and because that's where I was going to go, and you're transitioning perfectly. It's so funny because Sean, we're getting older, and it wasn't that long ago. But I think what a lot of people forget or just weren't around to know is that you see these first takes and this hot take cannon style yell at each other, blah, blah, blah format. The fathers, in my opinion, of that format, but in a much better capacity, were John Clayton and Sean Salisbury on SportsCenter when you guys would go at it, and John was the dork and you were the dumb jock, and you guys would go back and forth and get quote-unquote personal, but the best of friends behind it. That, I think, was the father of this format, and so it's not a question of could you handle it. You helped create it.
And I'm better at it, and like I said, I'm humble. Trust me, I work at it, and I know there's people that are better, but I won't back down from any competition. And it's not a matter of it's your opinion. If it was the father, it was. It was before PTI.
Right.
It was before Around the Horn. It was before First Take. It was before Colt. I mean, all that stuff that they were. John and I were the original, and I think the original was pretty damn good. And now they've expanded it. Instead of doing it for 2 segments on SportsCenter, they're doing it for 2 and 3 hours.
Right.
Which, man, I'd love that format. So, and it's not, for me, and I tell people, it's not just football. I would have zero problem, going on the set with Kenny Smith, Barkley, and Shaq O'Neal and Ernie Johnson, and I can talk basketball with them. They may have played it, but I still watch it and study it.
Sure.
I believe that I can go on MLB Network and we can be talking baseball and breaking down the week of the sports, and I have no problem. I mean, because it's my passion. It's what I love to do. Now, people pigeonhole you as a football guy, but Mike Greenberg will tell you he always was great at saying, Sean's the best I've ever been around. It's somebody who does it at other sports for a guy who was a former athlete, and I take that as a high compliment. I don't mean it arrogant, but he used to tell me that, and I thought, man, this is high praise, and I appreciate it. But I don't just throw stuff against the wall and hope it sticks, and I sure as heck just don't show up and start talking. I'm prepared for it, but I also don't script it. And John and I didn't script it. We had no idea what questions they were going to ask us during the week. They'd ask us about a dozen of them, and the 4 or 5 that they used, we wouldn't know. And I didn't know his answers, or he didn't know mine. So, and that was never scripted, and that was all real. And he's one of my dear friends to this day. I go on his show. He goes on mine every week. He'll be on my show today. at 5 o'clock, so Central Time. But I appreciate the compliment, but that's what I always say. Hey, I don't want anything. But if you want to stick me on First Take or on the show with Jason Whitlock or on one of those shows where they're going back and forth with Skip Bayless, they bring it. If you want to talk soccer, I'm in. If you want to talk college hoops, be prepared to get worn out. So whatever it is, I'm in. It just takes somebody with a set of balls and a network executive to say, okay, 12 years ago, went through some adversity. He's over that. And look at the big scope of things. What an overrated controversy it was, but it taught me a lot. Put me in a situation like that. You don't have to give me a job. Give me an audition, and I won't leave the studio without a contract, period.
Sean Salisbury, host of the Sean Salisbury Show, as he just mentioned. You can hear John Clayton at 3 o'clock Sacramento time. His show is on from 1 to 4. You can catch that on the iHeart app. You can follow Sean at Sean Unfiltered. Buddy, always great. Lots to catch up on, and I always love the directions we tend to go, especially when we haven't talked for a while. And we'll hit you up next week, my man. I appreciate you.
Can't wait. And 3 out of the 4 road teams are winning. Only home team that's winning this week will be the Bears. The other 3 road teams are winning. Ooh. And this is the one week. The best week in NFL weekend is for football. I'll tell you this too, Dave. Think about it. This is the first time from seeds 4 to 6 in both conferences. I mean, if I told you the Seahawks were going to the Super Bowl, you could legitimately say, yeah, I feel pretty damn good about them. If I told you that the Colts were going to get to the AFC Championship game, can you argue that as a 6 seed? I think we're pretty good. Chargers are, a 5 seed? So we're pretty loaded in the AFC and NFC this year. Should be a hell of a playoff. So I look forward to talking to you about it next week, man.
All right, brother. Have a great show. Thanks. You. We'll talk
you
to you.
Too.
All right. That's Sean Salisbury. We will take a break. When we come back, brand new Niners play-by-play voice, Greg Papa. Always fun to talk to Greg, and we will talk to him, obviously, about the changes in his life, what's coming, and then I also want to talk to him about the playoffs as well.
I'm excited for him to talk with the knowledge of the 49ers as if he's been their broadcaster for 20 years.
And he will.
That's how it's going to happen.
And he'll know.
Yes.
All right.
He is going to know the intricate details of Kyle Shanahan's offense.
It's going to be, and I'm going to put it all out there, but it's going to be very interesting. And I'm going to let Greg know, dude, just feel free to say I don't want to talk, because I want to ask him about, go back to what happened and then now. But I also want him to feel free to be like, I don't want to talk about the past and I don't want, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
We're not trying to break news with Greg. We're all very happy for Greg.
Yes.
And he's been on the show many, many times, a longtime friend of the program. So that will be fun next. And then we'll get back to the Sacramento Kings and Kyle's cold hard facts, brought to you by Coors Light, 8:30 to 9. That's The Drive, Sports 1140 KHTK.